Hi everyone. Okay, so I had a pause. Remember that? My last video? Well, I'm back. I couldn't finish the chapter because it was very, very long. So let's see if I can get it finished today. Alright, so Braille. Many blind people read by touch instead of sight. They run their fingers over pages that are printed in raised dots. Different arrangements of dots stand for different letters. Louis Braille invented this special kind of writing. Louis Braille was born in 1809 in a small town in France. He became blind at the age of 4. Most blind people then couldn't read or write. Many had to beg to make a living. But Louis was lucky. He went to a school for blind boys. He learned to read letters that were made of pressing copper wire into a sheet of paper to make a raised shape. Louis could read, but he still did not know how to write. Then one day, a soldier came to the school. He showed the students a system called night writing. It helped soldiers in battle communicate with each other in the dark without having to talk. It was based on a series of raised dots. Louis was very excited by this new kind of writing. He saw how useful it could be. He experimented until he found a system of using 6 dots. Blind people could read it, and they could also write it. They used a stylus, a pointed pen-like tool, to make the dots. Today, Braille has been adopted for almost every language and is used all over the world. That's what the Braille looks like, and that is Louis Braille. It's pretty interesting how that works. I have always wanted to learn that and learn sign language on as well. So one day I'm going to make that little dream happen. And remember, you can do anything you want as long as you dream it. Try to get there. And if you don't succeed, that's okay. Keep trying. Mr. Anagos asked Annie to write a paper about Helen. At nights when Annie was at her desk writing, Helen sat quietly beside her, writing her own letter to the blind children at Perkins. Sorry, excuse me. Allergy / a cold is coming on. Yeah. I'm not supposed to do that, but I have no tissues in here right now. Sorry. Alright. No one would have believed this quiet scene possible just for months earlier. Mr. Anagos shared stories about Helen and Annie. The Boston newspapers ran more stories about them. The papers began calling Helen the Wonder Child. Readers wanted to meet her and know more about her. Some doubted if the stories could be true. Either way, Helen was becoming famous. Annie and Helen continued their lessons, unaware of their growing fame up north. Christmas was coming. It would be the first time that Helen understood the holiday and would be able to take part in it. Helen and Annie read Christmas stories. They made up their own Christmas stories. Helen got caught up in the excitement and joy of the holiday. She loved making gifts and then dropping hints as to what the gifts were. The Keller family had much to be thankful for this holiday, and so did Annie, who at last had a home. Christmas is my favorite time of year. I love decorating, baking, wrapping the gifts, seeing the kids' face light up when they open their gifts. It's a very fun time. And then here's the pictures. So there's Helen sitting by Annie while she's writing. And there's the newspaper. The new year, 1888, dawned full of hope. Helen would turn 8. But more important, Helen would leave home that year. Helen wanted to visit Perkins, and Annie was going to take her there. But first, Helen had to prepare for the trip. Annie and Helen worked even harder at their lessons. Mrs. Keller worried that Helen was pushing herself too hard. Helen was often tired. She talked to Annie, but Annie said that she could not slow Helen down. Helen never wanted to rest. There was too much to learn. By May 1888, Helen was ready to go. But an amazing thing happened that changed their plans. Helen and Annie were invited to the White House to meet President Grover Cleveland. Like so many other people, the president was amazed by how much Helen could do. Most people thought that blind people would always be helpless. Many thought that, just because they could not see or hear, blind and deaf people were not smart. Helen proved to the President of the United States just how wrong that was. There's Grover Cleveland, and there he is again, but there's Helen and Annie. Alright, that was the end of chapter 5, so next time I will start on chapter 6. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and keep smiling. See you later.